Within project management, the 5 process groups provide a framework for development and delivery of components that will ultimately become a holistic project. The 5 process groups also support lifecycle activities where the actual project work takes place. Processes within the process groups are configured in a manner that drives project activities from initiation through to closure. In all, there are 47 processes used to develop and drive project activities in order to ensure that the iterative nature of the processes delivers results in their proper sequence. The processes are grouped with knowledge areas. So what's so special about knowledge areas, and why can't we simply make do with process groups? Knowledge areas are intentionally grouped processes that have common characteristics. This provides for aligning skill sets or knowledge that facilitates project activities through the process groups and project life cycles. So let me give you an example. To initiate a project and ensure that all respective details are accurately captured to get things started, you would begin with the initiate process group and the integration knowledge area. The first process that you'll encounter details activities pertaining to the project charter. The process itself is called Develop Project Charter, and it provides details pertaining to inputs, tools, and techniques, and outputs of the process itself, which is the case in the project charter. Now you'll find that project processes are iterative in nature, meaning that as one process completes, the product of the process drives activities into another process. The project charter, once completed, feeds into activities that will transpire within the planning process group, where the project plan will be developed. Keep in mind that the iterative nature of the processes not only feeds processes going forward, but also revisits activities as changes transpire during the life of the project. During the planning process group, 20 distinct processes may be engaged to detail requirements such as scope, cost, and time, quality, and resources. Now, having the project plan in place, along with all subsidiary plans, permits activities to progress to the next process group, which is execution. Within execution, the majority of the heavy lifting takes place, relevant to ensuring resources are developing work with proper levels of quality anticipated to meet project specifications. While planning and execution activities transpire, quality processes are incorporated to ensure that appropriate levels of planning, monitoring, and control are applied to ensure project deliverables meet expectations. Those processes will drive project activities to closure, where detailed activities will accumulate in delivering the product of the project. All of these processes are within integration management, and it is important to make note of the fact that this one knowledge area is the only one that has processes that span the project from beginning to end. The next knowledge area delivers processes that help manage the scope of the project. Scope management activities take place within the planning and monitoring and control process groups. Within the planning process groups, requirements are collected. Deliverable details are vetted, and the project work breakdown structure is created, all of which drive project deliverables in the form of work packages. A work package is a project management terminology for the lowest level of work within a work breakdown structure. Work packages detail specific activities that will be carried out to develop components of a project. Now, these activities are specific and measurable. They will contribute to productivity metrics that will be used during the monitoring and control process group activities. Those activities are delivered through processes known as validate scope and control scope. The validate scope process leads to the approval of the project deliverables, and control scope ensures the intended deliverable is developed with the proper levels of quality, with no deviations or unplanned changes. The next knowledge area promotes processes pertaining to the time constraint within a project. The majority of the processes relating to time take place within the planning process group. Defining project activities, sequencing the manner in which components of the project will be delivered or worked upon, estimating the number of resources and the duration of time required to perform work anticipated, and developing a schedule by which those activities will take place are among the processes within the time knowledge area. The final process, being the control of the schedule developed, is aligned to the monitoring and control process group. Processes that help manage project costs are aligned to the cost knowledge area, where cost estimating and cost budgeting take place within the planning process group, and cost control promotes metrics for analysis within the monitoring and control process group. Now, quality activities are delivered through the quality knowledge area, and they provide support by ensuring quality is taken into consideration for all aspects of project deliverables, from the planning process group through the execution process group and into monitoring and control process groups. The human resources knowledge area drives processes to develop a plan for the required people within the necessary capabilities and expertise to apply to project deliverables. The HR plan is developed in conjunction with the overall project plan within the planning process group. Acquiring the project team, developing the team, and managing the project team all take place throughout the execution process group activities. The communications knowledge area processes promote effective communications to all stakeholders, project team participants, clients, vendors, and the general public when necessary. There are 3 processes within the communications knowledge area where stakeholders are identified so effective communications can take place with those that have a vested interest in the project. Developing a communication plan occurs within the planning process group in conjunction with the overall project plan. It's considered to be one of the subsidiary project plans. Managed communications occurs within the executing process group, and control communications occurs within the monitoring and controlling process group. It should be noted that distributing project information, reporting project performance, and productivity processes are all aligned to the monitor and control process group. The risk knowledge area details 6 processes that mostly occur within the planning process group. The risk management plan details activities in regard to how the project manager and team intend to oversee activities that pertain to risks associated with project development work. Identify risk is a process that examines activities within each work package to determine the probability and degree of risk that each project activity in a project carries. Qualitative and quantitative analysis processes help determine if risk-related activities are preventive or corrective in nature, and feed into a process that promotes a response in regard to potential risks, so that in the event of a risk becoming an issue within a project, the project team can mitigate the risk based upon a plan of action. Processes to monitor risks are aligned to the monitor and control process group to ensure that ongoing work within the project does not promote additional risk into the project. The procurement knowledge area delivers processes used to oversee procurement work that is used to develop raw materials into components of the project's product. Procurement processes take place within the planning, execution, monitoring and controlling, and closing process groups. The procurement plan is developed during planning and becomes a subsidiary plan to the project plan. Actual procurement processes take place to acquire raw materials or contract resources during the execution process group, while administering procurement processes are aligned to the monitor and control process group to ensure what is being purchased meets the specifications required of the project. Within the closing process group, all procurement activities are brought to closure. Contracts are reviewed for completion. Invoices are paid and contract resources are paid for their performance. Reviews of vendor activities and participation may also take place at this time. The stakeholder knowledge area, which is new to the 5th edition of the PMBOK, details 4 processes that extend across most of the process groups. Stakeholders are identified and determined of their role, need, and how the project affects them. Developing a plan on how to best manage the stakeholders, their involvement, and other attributes, as well as updating it as needed or stakeholders and their needs change. Managing the identified stakeholders and following through with plans, as well as controlling situations where the planned stakeholder engagement is not working as expected or needing change to those times throughout the project where previously unidentified stakeholders are now affecting the project or affected by the project and/or its results, either positively or negatively. The project stakeholder management knowledge area details the processes used to identify the process groups, organizations, and individuals that could potentially impact the project or those who could be affected by the project, both its operation and its results. This knowledge area assesses the expectations of identified stakeholders and analyzes their needs and their alignment to the project, and develops appropriate plans and strategies to effectively engage the project stakeholders. Stakeholder management processes happen within the initiating, planning, executing, and monitoring and controlling process groups. The Identify Stakeholders process lasts from project initiation until the very last moments of the project's existence. It is arguably the most repeated process of all the processes. Typically, it repeats most often and has more emphasis at the initiation of new projects or phases. Hence, the Identify Stakeholders process is classified within the initiating process group. In the planning process group, the process associated with stakeholders focuses on determining the best game plans for engaging the stakeholders and seeking ways to improve that engagement throughout the project's life cycle. The execution of those plans naturally falls within the process group of execution. The active engagement and management of stakeholders occurring to the plans and the changes based on monitoring and controlling actions are important components of stakeholder management and the project's overall success. And finally, in the monitoring and controlling process group for stakeholder management is the control stakeholder engagement process. This process centers on the need to adapt to stakeholders' changing needs and expectations as the project progresses. Additionally, this process evaluates the current engagement levels and plans to critique their effectiveness and discover ways to improve and be more effective. Thank you for joining us for our overview on project management. Project management is a growing field that is ripe for professional development and opportunity. Learning the foundations of project management will not only help you become a better project manager, it will help you become a more productive employee and team member as well. Good luck on your project management activities in the future.